Dropping dimes and rhymes. 5-2, I got you. Yeah. They don't want that problem. They don't want that problem. They don't want that problem.
Beats for
They
your
don't want
heads.
that problem. Dropping dimes and rhymes like I'm Baby Dame. MVP champion like I'm King James. Cooking like Kyrie, cooking like Curry, swish, swish. Cooking like Kyrie, cooking like Curry, swish, swish. Dropping dimes and rhymes like I'm Baby Dame. Feel like Kobe Bryant with my 5 rings. 23s on his feet, and you know we got the info. Introducing 5-2 to the show, let's go.
What's good, Nashville? It's your boy 5-2, aka Tyrone Mack, back in the building with another season of dropping dimes and rhymes. How everybody doing today? I know I'm doing pretty good despite all of the trade drama that's going on today. Man, we got a lot of things we're going to talk about, but first I just want to go ahead and get this out of the way. For anybody thinking that me and James C have beef, obviously y'all don't know. We ain't got beef. We had to stop doing Ryhmes podcast because we all had something else we needed to accomplish. We all had other things that we needed to focus on. So we're back again. He's doing his thing with the offseason, and I'm back with my dropping dimes and rhymes. So we will be back, as he said on his very first episode of the offseason, that we will be back for Ryhmes podcast, season 3 of that coming up this fall. Now, for my show, I'm going to be coming at you at least once a month, depending on what is going on in the basketball world. If we got some things that are just too much to hold back, we're going to come at you. So be on the lookout for dropping dimes and rhymes once a month, pending that nothing else major happens. But it's time to start the show. We got 3 things we're going to cover today. We're going to cover this boogie to the New Orleans Pelicans trade that everybody is just, even myself, is just utterly confused on how this even got accomplished. And then we're going to talk about Paul George and Jimmy Butler and some trade scenarios that, you know, could be accomplished to get these players on certain teams. Also, we'll also talk about Melo as well. But to start the show off, let's talk about this DeMarcus Cousins situation. Obviously, if you're paying attention to sports or if you're on Twitter in general, you have noticed that the Sacramento Kings have traded DeMarcus Cousins to the New Orleans Pelicans for Buddy Hield and Tyreke Evans. Also, Langston Galloway was included in that trade, and Omri Caspi was also included in that trade going to New Orleans. And on another note, when Buddy Hield and Tyreke went to Sacramento, they flew commercial. However, DeMarcus Cousins and Omri Caspi flew in the owner's plane to New Orleans. And I kind of feel bad for DeMarcus Cousins because if any of you have been on Twitter, you've seen the video of DeMarcus Cousins displaying his emotion of him leaving Sacramento. And obviously, he loves Sacramento. But I think this trade really works for New Orleans because this allows them to really make a push in the West and to really make some noise. You have Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday down there in New Orleans, and adding the athleticism that DeMarcus Cousins brings to your team is just going to be huge. Also, it makes them a more valuable landing spot for a player that is looking to really make some noise in the league. So I have to give it up to New Orleans for pulling this off because, honestly, this trade shouldn't have happened. David Stern, out of all trades, should have popped up out of nowhere and say, nah, I'm going to veto that. Even on 2K, this trade wouldn't happen. Ronnie 2K, if you follow him on Twitter, He tweeted out a picture of him trying to execute this exact trade on NBA 2K17, and it didn't work. So I'm completely shocked that this trade was even allowed to go through. I mean, if you're going to veto any trade, that trade should have been vetoed. But, you know, you got to give credit to New Orleans for making this deal happen. And I believe that everybody involved with the Sacramento Kings and their front office, they should be fired immediately for allowing this trade to even go through. But, hey, you know, Boogie has a fresh start. He's able to probably contend for more championships playing in New Orleans than playing in Sacramento. He has help now with Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, and they'll get some free agents to come there, because now that's a very interesting spot to go to, because you have some solid pieces there as your starting five. And, you know, they can get some role players there, some bench players there to help them out. They're really going to be good, and they're really going to start making some noise in the coming years. Now let's talk about Jimmy Butler and Paul George. Obviously, you know, if you know me, I'm a Bulls fan, so I would hate to see Butler go. But if I'm putting myself in the GM shoes, and let's say the Boston Celtics call me, Danny Ainge calls me, and he says, all right, what is it going to take for us to acquire Jimmy Butler via trade? I said, okay, I'm gonna give you the lowdown. In order for you to acquire Jimmy Butler from us, you're going to have to give me Crowder, Jaylen Brown, and I'm going to milk it for what it's worth. I'm going to ask for 2 first-round picks. I'll even throw in Michael Carter-Williams in the trade. That at least gives you somebody coming off the bench, and you get Jimmy Butler. I'm taking that deal if I'm Danny Ainge, because that is probably the fairest and cheapest deal that you're going to be able to accomplish to get him, Jimmy Butler, on your team. Other than that, there's nothing else that you can trade to me that would make me want to give you Jimmy Butler, because you have to look at it from my standpoint. Jimmy Butler is my only foundation piece. Dwayne Wade is going to be gone here soon. Rondo, I'm going to eventually get rid of him. After that, there's nothing else on this roster that I can look at and say, you know, this might be a very good foundation piece. This might be a solid face of the franchise. This might be my superstar. There's nothing on this roster. So you have to give me something for Jimmy Butler. And I think the Boston Celtics need to make that deal. And I think the Chicago Bulls might accept it. As a fan of the Chicago Bulls, if you tell me that is what you traded for to let them have Jimmy Butler, I'll be okay with it. I would hate it because I don't want to see Butler go. But at the same time, I wouldn't be mad, because you know what? We probably need to rebuild. Jimmy Butler is probably not going to stay here any longer. This gives us a chance to quickly rebuild and get ourselves back up within the Eastern Conference. Now, let's talk about Paul George. Rumor has it that new basketball vice president for the LA Lakers, Magic Johnson, is working on a trade to get Paul George to LA. Now, if I'm the Lakers, I'm offering Clarkson and Randall and trying to figure out something else to at least entice this trade for Paul George. And if I'm the Pacers, I would take it, you know, especially if I'm getting Clarkson and Randall, because I think those are 2 foundational pieces that can still help your team. And if I can give you a first-round pick, it can help you find your next superstar, because if, you know, we continue to lose, we're going to be in the top 5, top 3 anyway. So, you know, it would help you anyway. But I think that's a decent trade. I was talking to James C. last night when this rumor started about Paul George possibly becoming a Laker, and he's all for it. You know, he, just like myself, he would hate to see Clarkson and Randall go, but if it would help his team to start winning games, he would enjoy it and he would love it, and he'll embrace Paul George for what he is. And honestly, you know, looking at it from my standpoint, being a Bulls fan, that would be nice for the Lakers to have, to finally get a young prime superstar on that roster with D'Angelo and Brandon Ingram and that young core of guys that they have around there in the building. That would be nice for them to get. So let's also talk about Carmelo Anthony. You know, there's also the rumor that he might be traded to Boston as well. I think, honestly, the cheapest way to get him out of New York is probably offer Crowder and a first-round pick, and you can get Melo there. That might even be the safest route because, you know, I don't want to see Butler leave Chicago. But, you know, being a GM, that might be the safest route or cheapest route to start winning a lot more in the East. Melo could come in and instantly help you win. You know, he's a shooter. I think a change of scenery might do him some good. And he's a part of a franchise where their history is a part of winning. You know, I'm not saying the New York Knicks don't have a history of winning when, you know, they really don't. But, you know, the old Knicks of yesteryear used to win a lot. These Knicks are nowhere near the Knicks when Patrick Ewing and Charles Oakley and company were playing with them. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that situation. But as of right now, Jimmy Butler's still in Chicago. Thank you, Lord. And Paul George is with Indiana. And Carmelo is still in New York. So nothing has changed as of right now. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So that's the end of the show. You've been listening to Dropping Dimes and Rhymes. This is your boy, Tyrone Mack, a.k.a. 5'2". I'm out of here. See you.